Open up CoffeeOS, and from the Tools page, open the Brew Ratio Calculator. As with all the tools, if you tap the 3 dots in the top right corner here, you'll see detailed instructions on how to use the tool and what it's for. But hey, you chose to watch the video version, so let's skip the reading. At the top here is an option for Estimate Retention that's on by default. When you brew coffee, some amount of water will be retained by the coffee grounds. The amount is dependent on your brew method. Turning this on will calculate your estimated yield after subtracting that retained water. Down at the bottom, you can see some suggested common brew ratios. Kind of like a handy-dandy cheat sheet. The top section of the tool is the overview. The bottom is the ratio. Changing any of the input fields will recalculate the others so that the sentence at the top always reads correctly according to the results at the bottom. The strength and brew method behave like presets. So choosing a brew method or a strength will suggest an appropriate ratio and then give you your dose and water based on your chosen yield. So for example, I want a 250 gram yield for a weak auto drip. Adjusting the dose or water will update the ratio. If you want to lock your ratio, you can tap the lock button, and this will, you guessed it, lock the ratio. Now, adjusting the dose will update the water, and adjusting the water will update the dose. Both of these will affect your yield. Because the brew ratio is directly connected to your coffee's strength, adjusting the strength will ignore your locked ratio setting. Likewise, changing the brew method will also adjust the ideal ratio for your chosen strength, regardless of the locked position. You can also manually change your ratio while locked. Think of it as a magic lock. It lets you pass when you open the door, but locks it for other people. Adjusting your yield will update both the dose and the water according to your ratio. The Brew Ratio Calculator supports all relevant units. Tap any unit space, change it to any other unit, and the number next to it will convert automatically. Choosing servings will behave like a preset according to your chosen brew method. For example, 6.36 servings of AeroPress is different from 6.36 servings of French press. Units can be mixed and matched however you need. Let's change it to gallons and say I want to brew 1 gallon of strong coffee using the Chemex method. That requires 49.17 tablespoons of coffee and 18.43 cups of water. Perfect. This tool, just like all the others, can connect wirelessly to external hardware devices and use their data. Connecting to D-Fluid Microbalance, I can tap the Auto Retrieve button to weigh out my dose and then input it into the desired field. The Brew Ratio Calculator can also be used inside of other tools to import dose, water, and yield information. For example, when creating a recipe in the Brew Recorder, I can choose Fill from Tool and then import the ratio for my recipe. So say I want to brew 2 servings of strong V60. Boom. On the main tools page, you can tap and hold the icon to choose a widget size. So I'll change from a small to a medium view, and I can see my last calculation right from the home page. And that's the Brew Ratio Calculator.